the bottom line.
You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We've got what will turn out to be a very action-packed show tonight. There's a lot of good games going on this week. We got a lot to talk about. And without further ado, Eric, we probably should get this thing going, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff packed into the show tonight, so we can't be messing around. We shouldn't have been messing around with that Viking stuff at the beginning of the
Hey
show,
man,
but
until the Vikings find a team in the NFL that can actually beat them,
yeah, they might this week.
that is going to continue. So, without further ado, let's bring on Brett, and he can give us the UFL update. So, take it away, Brett.
What's up, fellas? All right, guys. Season tickets went on sale for, I believe, every home market yesterday, except for the Michigan Panthers. They're still negotiating with Ford Field, and hopefully they'll be back there for the upcoming season. What else we got going on? Also, the championship game that was rumored to be at Aldi Field. Well, the Soccer League finally released their schedule this week on Monday. And the championship game for the soccer league is at Audi Field in Detroit, or excuse me, DC, that weekend on Sunday. They cannot have the championship game there. The rumor is now that it will be at Protective Stadium in Birmingham. Hopefully we'll get verification on this sooner than later. And that basically is the UFL update.
All right.
So now that he has already went way too far with, we got to give him a chance to rest. So let's see.
Let's get right into it. Let's get into the power
right into the Big 12 power rankings.
rankings.
There you go, Eric. Take it away.
All right. Some shakeups in the power rankings. I remember in the comment line last week, there were some different comments for some different teams, and we definitely had a shakeup game that put some teams exactly where I thought they were going to be. But taking it from the top, again, being the ISU fan that I am, go Clones, go Clones.
Slash Homer.
I hate putting them in the number one spot, but so far, we talked about it last week. ISU going to Morgantown in West Virginia, huge game for West Virginia, and I saw a lot of comments on some different threads about West Virginia was going to throttle them, and Iowa State did what they did. They played defense, they scored points, and they got another 2-score win against a Big 12 opponent. So taking out West Virginia and Morgantown keeps them in the number one spot. BYU in the second spot, the two undefeated teams at the top.
Just Eric, I'll give you your. How many weeks can ISU stay at number one? That's my question.
I've thought about this a lot. I really believe that by the end of the year we'll probably see BYU in the number one spot, and I'll tell you why. As I look through the schedule, Arizona State is in the fifth spot here, but they just lost their quarterback for 2 to 4 weeks. That's a big blow to Arizona State, and that'll slow that offense up a little bit, I believe. And that's the toughest team. I mean, Iowa State does not play BYU. I don't believe Kansas State plays BYU. Iowa State does play Texas Tech and Kansas State. So, those are big games.
Do they have Kansas State at home or on the road?
They do have them at home, but we have Utah away. Now, I know Utah just lost Cam Rising for the year, and they got a medical red shirt, so he's going to come back for like his 8th year or 20th year, whatever it is. The dude's like 30, but he is coming back for an 8th year, it looks like, with a medical red shirt. Kansas State went into Colorado, did what I thought they were going to do. Colorado played tough. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But Colorado is just not a very disciplined team. And I know Colorado had a lot of injuries too. If Hunter doesn't go down, maybe that game looks different. But as it is, it's a Kansas State win in Boulder. So they are in the 3 spot again. Texas Tech is right there. They're undefeated in the conference with 1 loss. Arizona State with that big blow with their quarterback going down, being out 2 to 4 weeks. Utah, I don't know how long they're going to hang. They're going to hang in this top 10 ranking. They're going to run into some tough teams, and with Rising out, I don't know how competitive they're going to be. Maybe they will be. I don't know. Time will tell. Colorado, they looked strong. They got a big win. You got that big win, that miracle throw against Baylor, and then they blew out UCF, and then they didn't handle business at home against Kansas State. In the Big 12, you got to handle business at home, and they were unable to do that. My surprising team in the Big 10 is Cincinnati. Cincinnati's 2-1 in the conference. They're making a little noise. Their only loss is to Texas Tech, 44-41. So Cincinnati was kind of wrote off for dead last in the conference, and they're making a little noise. Arizona, 2 losses. They're probably on life support. And then West Virginia, rounds out the top 10, taking that L at home against Iowa State. Right now it looks to be about a 4-team race, but those teams underneath can certainly make some noise. The problem with Colorado is, Colorado really doesn't control its fate. They don't play BYU. They don't play Iowa State in the conference. So, the schedule makers didn't, do a very good job of figuring out who was going to be where and getting some of those games scheduled. I don't know how the scheduling comes out in the Big 12, the Big 10, or the SEC, but that's kind of how it shakes out. But I just don't see. BYU has a way easier schedule. So I do anticipate with the injury to the quarterback at Arizona State and things that the BYU has a better chance of running the table. Kansas State is always a huge game. But thankfully it's in Ames. Can they take care of business in Utah? I don't know. But time will tell. They also play Texas Tech. So, Iowa State has Utah, Kansas State, and Texas Tech on their schedule, and BYU does not. So, it definitely favors the Cougars. But for right now, with the big win in Morgantown, Iowa State stays on top.
So let's bring Chad on, and let's also bring on making his season 2 debut. Since he's such a Michigan homer, maybe it's a good time to bring him on, let him be a little part of the Big Ten talk, right?
Yeah,
So
I
let's
suppose. Bring
on
Mike on. There he is.
Mike.
Welcome in, Mike.
So what we have to do is we have to make a little parting of the seas. So when I slap this Big Ten up here, we got to kind of talk around the window. So
Yeah, slide over, Mike, so we can see your mug.
so take it away, Chad.
Well, it was a big game. If anybody hadn't heard, there was a big game in Eugene, Oregon this last weekend. And Oregon came out on top on that one. Ohio State, so I have Oregon at 1. Obviously, everybody could see it. Penn State at 2. Since I turned this in, man, it doesn't matter. It's one spot. Penn State and Ohio State playing a couple weeks. So they'll figure that out then. But Ohio State could have easily left at 2. Indiana sitting at 4. They just keep winning games, whoever they play. This week they get Nebraska in Bloomington, so we'll see how that's going to go. Illinois sitting at 5. Iowa jumps up to 6. Then we got those Badgers.
Those Badgers.
I hate the Badgers almost as much as I hate Iowa. I hate them more. The fans throw cups of urine on opposing fans. Okay, I have no tolerance for that. Okay, anyway, so we got Nebraska at 8. Sorry, Mike. Michigan's at 9, but that's kind of their
for now.
Sure. And then 10, we got Washington. And then Minnesota and USC. USC, man, they have just not done it. I'm pretty surprised at how pathetic they have been this year. But
Lincoln
they're
Riley's
not adjusting well to the Big Ten.
Lincoln Riley's record against ranked teams is not good. Now, I will tell you, Steve Sarkisian, they didn't hang on. Texas, after the first couple of years in Texas, they wanted to get rid of him. Where's Texas sitting now? I think USC needs to have some patience.
And I think
he'll get it
will.
figured out. I think they will too, but they need to have some patience. He'll get it figured out. He's an offensive guy. He'll get it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to beef up the lines, as we've all talked about over and over again. But USC, I mean, Lincoln Riley's, if they fired him, he'd be snatched up. There'd be 30 teams between college and NFL lined up to try and get him as their next head coach. So
let's get Mike to weigh in here, because coming off of a national championship, sitting at number 9 in this week's rankings, that can't be sitting too well. So what's your thoughts on Michigan?
Well, I mean, it seems like they are a quarterback away from really like making an impact in their games. Now, a lot of the roster's been depleted or gone to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh took all of his coaches with him, and then Sherrone Moore. I mean, we expected, run Michigan's power run, old Michigan football, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which is fine, but be nice when we get in these passing situations that have a quarterback to throw it. We've already this is the third quarterback Michigan's started this season, so looks like they're going to take the Tuttle shuttle the rest of the way and see where it goes. Big game against Illinois. Illinois is no slouch. You're on the road in Champaign. That'll be a great environment. That's a great football game between, ranked number 22 and 24, something like that. Very exciting game, 3:30 time slot. So I'll catch some of that because I have my own college game to be coaching in. So that's been a lot of my focus. Watched the Oregon and Ohio State game on the bus. Great game. And as a Michigan supporter, I had my rooting interest for the Ducks. So great job, Oregon. It's beautiful to see the Buckeyes go down. But Indiana's been a surprise team. I got the football standings pulled up right here. Can you imagine Big Ten championship between Oregon and Indiana? Like, because the division, because with the divisions gone, now it's the table format. I don't know I think CUSA still has divisions or something like that. Everyone else has gone away from that, and it's the top two in the conference game. So when you talk about games matter, like every game matters here. So Indiana's looking pretty, as far as the conference. I haven't seen the remaining schedule or anything like that. But if you're sitting as big, if you pull up the Big Ten standings, people will be like, "Whoa, wait, what? Indiana at the top?"
Isn't it alarming to you though, Mike, that on that power rankings, points scored, Iowa has more points scored, and they've played Ohio State than Michigan does this year. The only team up there that has less points scored in the conference than Michigan is that team right ahead of them, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Is that not alarming?
It is alarming. It is very alarming, especially, when we get down Oregon. Michigan still has Oregon. We're looking like, 8-4, 9-3 kind of season, which, coming off of a national championship, you expect the team to reload. But and again, Michigan, I'm not saying Michigan's like an Alabama kind of team. When Michigan won the championship, I think in 1998 or something like that, they went to the Citrus Bowl the next year, and it seems to be like another 8-4, 9-3 kind of year. So Michigan's not one to be like Alabama. Now, if could Harbaugh have stayed? I don't know. If you have the NFL calling, he wanted to get what he wanted to do at Michigan. He, check that off his bucket list to bring a championship back to Michigan. There's not a single college coach, if there was an NFL job calling you, that you wouldn't take it. Jim Harbaugh had his own goals set. But with the NFL jobs, it's a better quality of life. I see it here in Division II, the coaching and the recruit, it's every day. Like in the pros, you get a little time off, even working in the USFL for a little bit, you're out of the building at 5. These coaches here, the building that I'm in, they were there till I think midnight last night. Because this is our big week. This is our Grand Valley State week, so this is a big one for us. But at any rate, Harbaugh's getting up there in age. He says he has only so many sands in the hourglass to accomplish what he wants to. He wants that Super Bowl. So
absolutely does.
I don't blame him for going the NFL. And beyond, you accomplish. It can't get any better than what happened in 2023. So Jerome Moore, I think, was the right fit or the right guy for it. It's just got to you're a quarterback away, and it's just they have a guy who's a freshman, but you don't want to wait. You don't want to take his red shirt. I don't think right now. So
now that you've been busy with college football coaching and everything, and I just want to make you aware that you missed the initial photo shoot of the bottom line. So,
where was that?
Yeah, we had it at an undisclosed location, and we've always prided ourselves being called the Bottom Line Crew, but we thinking we're going to change our name to the Goodfellas.
Oh, I saw on Facebook. I saw the.
Yeah, so here's our portrait we got out so far, and
Brett.
and so
Brett looks elite.
Wait now, and we're gonna have to incorporate Mike in there, and I got.
You should just say Mike took the picture.
We'll say Mike took the picture, but I think to get him to fit Mike in there, you might have to be laying your head on Brett's shoulder or something. I don't know.
Like on Step Brothers or something.
Right. Maybe we'll put a box at the bottom there and put your head in it or something, Mike. And try that.
So let's get into some SEC talk. I'll preface this by saying, and there's some games playing this week that a loss could be very interesting to the chances of making the 12-team playoff.
And before we get there too, news came out about the SEC and the Big Ten talking about having a challenge each other every year. So just look for some news with that, with the super conferences and things talking, and the last show you guys talked about too, how big the SEC and the Big Ten are getting, right? They may are they going to separate themselves from the NCAA and just be
That's
their
what's going
own
to
thing?
happen.
Who's
That's what's
gonna?
going to happen.
We're gonna have that discussion here coming up after the SEC talk. So hold those thoughts.
Alrighty.
Well, Russell's been wondering where Bert is, so we better get Bert in here.
Yeah, so we
He's
got.
scared of all the Big Ten
We'll bring
talk.
Brett on. Hey, Brett. Your fans have already been asking where you went. So.
Hey, who's
difficult.
Oscar the Grouch? Brett, who's Oscar the Grouch?
That would be me.
So there's the SEC power rankings according to Brett. Take it away.
Texas, they've got a huge game coming up with Georgia, so that'll decide who's number one. LSU, big win in Baton Rouge the other night for their centennial celebration. Texas A&M at 4, they just keep winning. Their only loss was to Notre Dame, first game of the season. I got Bama at 5, Tennessee at 6. Of course, they play the third Saturday in October, Saturday at 2:30 in Neyland Stadium. Missouri at 7, Vandy at 8.
That's like Rutgers on the Big Ten power rankings for a while.
Arkansas at 9, Kentucky at 10, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin just went full Lane Kiffin Saturday night. I knew and mentioned before halftime, I said they left way too many points on the board. It's going to come back to haunt them in the second half, and it did. Oklahoma at 12, they've got huge problems on offense. No quarterback, ton of injuries at wide receiver. Florida at 13. South Carolina at 14, and bringing up the back end is Auburn and Hugh Freeze and Mississippi State. Mississippi State hung in there with Georgia, kept fighting back, ended up, I think, 41-31. But that's kind of where we're at with the SEC power rankings at this time. We'll see where we go from here. Huh?
I'm trying to get you in the window. You need to slide over a little bit. There you go.
So we talked a little bit about, games that are happening this weekend that could have serious implications. And, you've mentioned a couple of them, Alabama and Tennessee. What does a second loss mean to Alabama? What does a second loss mean to Tennessee? Does that mean that their chances are done? What do you think?
Both teams would have to win out, and it looks like the SEC is going to kind of beat up on each other. So I don't know. It opens the door for more non-SEC teams. Maybe 3 in the Big Ten, 2 or 3 in the Big 12. Look at Boise State, Notre Dame, some of those teams. Look, it's part of it. Alabama's got some issues. Tennessee's got some issues. Really, everyone in the conference right now is beatable. Up until Texas, we'll see. They beat a undermanned, especially at quarterback, Michigan. They beat an undermanned at Oklahoma. Now they're playing a real quarterback this weekend. It's in Austin. It's a primetime game. It's going to be very interesting to see Kirby Smart against Sarkisian. That's a huge game.
What does 2 losses mean for Georgia? Honestly, Alabama or Tennessee right now has to be hoping against hope, whoever gets that loss in that game, that Georgia loses as well.
Well, keep in mind, Georgia's only loss was to at Alabama, and if their second loss is at Texas, I mean, does it get any tougher than that they would have to go to Ole Miss and win and win out? I think a 10-2 Georgia, if they lose a close game at Alabama and Tennessee, I still feel like they're in the 12th,
right?
But we'll see.
What I'm getting at, though, is if they put a 10-2 Georgia in there, how could they potentially keep a 10-2 Alabama out?
It would be tough, although I truly believe, being a Alabama fan, if we lose in Tennessee Saturday, we've still got to go to Baton Rouge. And
the one thing I'll say though is you can draw the line under Tennessee, because Mizzou's only shot is if they run the table, because they had such a bad loss that a 2-loss season, it takes them out. So for all intents and purposes, unless Mizzou runs the table, you're looking at those top 6 spots, probably getting 4 in, I think, at the very least.
Russell,
Yeah.
you could be right, Russell, but I wouldn't bet the house on it. I would not bet the house that Arkansas will beat Texas again. You might be right, but I would not bet the house. And I do agree with you, Missouri. They just don't look like the same Missouri team. To me, Missouri has zero chance. I mean, right now, with Ole Miss dropping that game, and with the schedule they have going forward, to me it looks like it's Texas, Georgia, LSU, A&M, Alabama, Tennessee right now in the mix.
Ole Miss they've got to win out. There's no room.
They have a choice.
They have to, and both games they lost this season was very, very, very winnable. I just saw what was fixing to happen in Baton Rouge. They gave them hope, let them hang in the game. Quarterback got hot, and it is what it is. But now LSU's definitely improved on both sides of the ball. Texas A&M looks like a totally different team than what they did the season. So there's probably going to be some surprises at the top of the conference. I feel like Alabama's regressing. I know I'm a diehard. I don't cut Alabama any slack. They're going backwards, and if that doesn't correct itself this weekend, I don't think it will.
To me, if we were to look back on your week 1 power rankings, LSU, I would argue, is by far. I mean, I know it's LSU. Don't get me wrong. Fine, whatever. But to me, they are the surprising team in the top 5 because I think we thought that they may have had a few more issues to iron out. And to me, they just keep climbing the ladder where, Alabama seems like they just keep trying to step down and they just keep trying to step in it, where LSU just keeps going like this. And Tennessee has problems on the offense. Georgia has shown, they win 41-31 this week, Mississippi State. I mean, Georgia doesn't look like the dominant team. To me right now, and this will be sorted out again this weekend with Texas and Georgia. Texas right now looks like the class right now. Alabama has problems on defense. I don't think anybody would argue with that. A&M, they might be okay. But LSU
might have got in the conference at the right time, because this Alabama and Georgia team that they're seeing this year is not the Alabama and Georgia we've seen for the last decade. So Texas might have lucked up and got in the conference, like I said, at the perfect time.
I made this argument last year. Texas was definitely built better to enter the SEC than Oklahoma was.
Right.
And the thing that shocks me is how Oklahoma has figured some things out on defense, but their offense is just anemic. That shocks me. I thought maybe Oklahoma would put up points, but defensively they wouldn't be able to keep up with the SEC, and they'd deflate the ball, they'd eat the clock, that sort of thing, and Oklahoma would struggle that way. But man, I did not foresee their defense playing pretty well. And their offense is just anemic.
I didn't think that Oklahoma could not have a quarterback.
Right.
Well, how irresponsible is that?
Well,
they do. He's playing Oregon.
Well, then you go get another one.
Right.
You don't put that kid out there when he is clearly not ready to play.
No.
I mean,
and that surprises me. Oklahoma being that
was just
ready. Yeah.
That Oklahoma being that weak at quarterback just absolutely surprises me. I mean, think of the names in the past 15 years that we've ran through Oklahoma: Mayfield, Williams, Rattler. I mean, all those good quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel was there. And then all of a sudden we're like,
how'd they let Dylan Gabriel get away?
Yeah, who? I don't get it. I have no idea, and then you watch Dylan Gabriel, lead the Ducks to a win over Ohio State this weekend. So I don't know, man. Oklahoma, there's something off on the offensive side there, and it doesn't look like it's going to improve. It looks very anemic.
The NIL, man, you better be willing to spend money to get a good quarterback.
Yep.
That's right, and that's kind of where we're at. I mean, Mike knows all about that because he's a college coach. So He knows all about that nil money that he shucks out there.
It's not Michigan football money, but there's like we get Buffalo Wild Wings deals here and there, but it's not like the big Alabama or Big Ten or SEC money by any means. But
Russell says here too. Oklahoma looks wounded, and you're right, Russell. They 100% are wounded, and if I'm Oklahoma and I'm kind of looking around the room, I'm saying to myself, where are the answers? Where are the answers?
We spotted it and mentioned it before the season started. Oklahoma reminds me so much of A&M when A&M come into the SEC. The SEC is so much like the Big Ten on both lines of scrimmage. You've got to be physical. It's old school, but now we've got a ton of athletes as well. Oklahoma, to me, doesn't have the horses and the big boys on both lines of scrimmage, and it's the whole team's beat up. SEC's rough, man. Big 12 is totally different ball than Big 10 or SEC. So it's totally different game.
I think you could, if you were to break the conferences down, if you were to take the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, here's how I look at it. SEC is probably more complete. As far as how they build their offensive lines, they can run the ball, but they can also stretch the field. When you get to the Big Ten, they're more of it's going to be 30 degrees at the end of October and through November. They're built for more on the ground, in the trenches, things like that. Not saying that Ohio State can't stretch the field, and now enter Oregon and those teams. USC will try to stretch the field, but a team like Iowa does not try to stretch the field. A team like Minnesota does not try to stretch the field. And perennially they haven't. Where, in the Big 12, it was 100% offense. It was a hell of a lot more fun to watch. I'm not saying teams were better. I'm just saying it was a hell of a lot more fun to watch, from an offensive output standpoint. So, that's kind of how I see the three conferences. But, Texas came in built better to compete in the SEC. And the fact that, they are on top with the likes of Georgia, with the likes of Alabama, with the likes of LSU, says a lot about Steve Sarkisian, who, I can remember him the last couple of years in the Big 12 where it was like, get him out of here, get him out of here, get him out of here. And now all of a sudden, Steve Sarkisian's eating and drinking for free everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's why I said with USC earlier, don't give up on Lincoln Riley. He'll get it figured out. Sark got it figured out in Texas. And, I can only assume they'll get it figured out. Oklahoma, it's Oklahoma, but wow. And Russell's right. When Lincoln left, they went backwards. But Lincoln Riley was never really good on the defensive side of the ball. So that's not going to translate in the SEC if you can't play defense.
Well, is that a product of getting a defensive coordinator to be your head coach too? That's what Oklahoma went and did. So,
and it is.
How much effort is he putting in to the offensive side of the ball?
But the argument is always this, and you could argue this in the NFL, you could argue this anywhere. If you have a defensive coach, he has to get his side of the ball right. Then you've got to have a guy that you trust to handle the offense. It's obvious that in Oklahoma, he's getting his side of the ball right. They're going to have to figure out, how do we get the other side of the ball correct? And that's really the key.
Well, that's Michigan football right now. That's Michigan, with Sherrone Moore, offensive line. No, he's focused on making sure that, keep the downhill running attack. Then he goes and brings in Wink Martindale from the NFL. Hey, here's the defense. You run the defense, offense. Obviously he oversees and hears all the decisions, but he's an offensive guy. So, and then going back to the Big 12. So with all these different conferences and things, there's a little bit, depends on your taste too. Like for me as an air raid fan, I know I watched some Big 12 football, with, Houston, well, at least last year's Houston when, Dana Holgorsen was there, but the passing offenses are going to be in the Big 12. So you're going to see a lot of that. So that's why I like, I like watching games out of the Big 12. Anytime I get a chance to watch a game, it's good matchups out there.
So as we talk about wins and losses and the effect of how many losses can you have and still make the 12-team playoff, the Big Ten and SEC have been talking. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get into that discussion. So the SEC and the Big Ten are having discussions on making part of their schedule each year be some matchups, Big Ten versus SEC. With that, if you really want to put the games together that the fans want to see, now you got to start looking at wins and losses and what's truly going to get you in a 12-team playoff. Because if you're matching up the Ohio States with Alabamas and the Penn States and Texas and those type of games, well, then you have to, it's a good barometer. It's a good test to show each conference how they stack up early in the season. But at the end of the day, when you put the 12 teams in the playoffs, it definitely has to be the 12 best teams. And you can't get caught up in purely record like they did with Florida State last year and all the people that, kept crying foul just because the undefeated Florida State didn't make it in the playoffs. So, what do you guys think about adding that little tidbit to the beginning of the schedule?
This is if people can't see how this is playing out, then they're blind and they don't really follow it. So what was it, about 3 weeks ago? You heard rumblings of the Big Ten and the SEC wanting to make sure that there were a certain amount of spots granted to the SEC and Big Ten regardless. I think it was 4 and 4 or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. So that was step one. Step two is now they're working on a deal to where they can cross play. Well, what's the next step? And the next step, and how much is the NCAA going to give the SEC and the Big Ten thinking that they're going to stick around? I mean, honestly, they're obviously setting this up, to me, to tell the NCAA to go take a hike, because this is a money deal. You got a cross game between Ohio State and Georgia, Oregon and Alabama, Penn State and LSU. You start crossing those games, what does that generate? Money. But in order to generate that money, and wherever that money goes, why was the SEC and Big Ten want to cross those games over and the NCAA take a nice chunk of that? I'm telling you, this is all 100% being set up to where there's going to come a huge announcement at some point in time in the future where all of a sudden the SEC and the Big Ten are like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Hey, you teams are gone. You teams are gone. We're going to bring in this team and this team and Notre Dame and this team and whatever. And here's how we're going to play it. And that's going to be it. And whoever is outside of that circle that's left, you're left holding the bag.
So, Chad, you was talking about that, it's been weeks ago, about what you thought was going to eventually happen between the Big Ten and SEC, and it kind of looks like it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, I've been saying this since episode 1. So I think this is moving along a lot faster than I thought it would. So what does that mean? I think it means they'll probably go too fast. So they won't think this through properly, and they're going to screw some things up, which, that's natural. But also, I think the holding point will be legality. So what the lawyers are going to have to get involved. So what is this going to take for these guys to break away from the NCAA? What does that mean? What are the legal ramifications? Can they do it? Do they have to buy out? What is holding them there? Now, maybe there's nothing. I mean, teams have moved from NCAA Division III to NAIA, and things like that. So I don't know, but I think the legalities of how this is going to work is going to be something that's going to be interesting to see play out. And I think they'll work out the logistics, and people aren't going to be happy. I mean, there's going to be people that are really love it, and then there's going to be people that are not going to like it because it's change. And it's a bunch of old fat men sitting around watching college football. And we all know how old fat men like change. However, it's inevitable because everything is money driven. And this is these aren't amateur athletics. Throw that out.
Oh,
He's haven't been amateur athletics for a long time.
yeah. What about Hunter? He'll come back to Colorado next year for $40 million. That pretty
Yeah.
much that amateur. Caleb Downs transferring from Alabama to Ohio State, it was nothing but a paycheck. Even Saban said that Texas and Ohio State was basically hanging out in our practice parking lot, some of their scouts. I mean, it's got to get regulated. It's got to get fixed.
Yes.
When is this 12-team bowl? How long is this contract for, Mike, Eric, Chad? Do y'all know? Is it up to 2026? How long does there's a current contract in place where it's 12 teams for so many years? When is that up?
I'm not Mike. You'd have to ask Mike. I'm not sure, Chad.
I'm not sure, but I think as long as it stayed within whatever networks have it, they would be willing to expand, probably not contract, but probably expand the playoffs for more.
Well, and where you and Eric got into it real good in the last show, and we love to get y'all going. I'm all for a 16 team. Was it Division II and other divisions, Mike, that has done a 16 team for probably 30 years now? It's exciting. There's some upsets. You think, well, Alabama's going to run over this team. Texas is going to. That ain't always the case.
No.
Yeah.
Some upsets.
It's very hard. Like right now, we are 4-1 right now, and we have our two biggest toughest opponents still ahead of us, and it's going to be very tough. You know, we got Grand Valley State, who's leading the conference. We're second in the conference, and national championship at Division II, Ferris State in our conference, still on the schedule coming up in a couple weeks. So it's gonna be tough. You know, these are must-win games for us because they have it. It's called like super regionals because the Division II playoffs is very hard. They got all these different conferences out there. I think they take 2 from like each one. So you may get in with 2 losses, but at 3 losses, and it's kind of you're just crossing your fingers hoping that you get they let you in.
Well, who's the 2 teams from the ACC? Don't you fellas anticipate with there being 4 power conferences right now? They're going to try to at least get 2 from each conference in. Wouldn't you guys agree? Who would be your 2 from the ACC? I mean, I guess it'd be Miami and Clemson.
Miami and Clemson right now.
It's got to be those 2.
Yeah.
But Miami looks like they're teetering like they've been ever since Cristobal's been down there of just falling apart. I mean, they've been the last couple games.
They're holding on by a thread. I mean, they have slipped by who was it? It was California last week, and then who was it the week before?
The week.
Yes. So, but I mean, you know, I could easily see you know, a Clemson,
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, a Clemson, Miami. I could easily see, you know, 4 teams out of the SEC, 4 teams out of the Big Ten, and Iowa State, Kansas State, and Iowa State, BYU type of setup. A Kansas State, BYU. You know, you just never know how it's going to play out.
I'll tell you what, BYU is thumping teams, and they look good.
Well, and I talked about it earlier. You know, BYU probably has the easiest schedule. I could see BYU because Arizona State's quarterback is down. So I mean, that was the toughest one left on their schedule. You know, they managed to avoid Iowa State, Kansas State, and Utah. You know, I mean, they just able to avoid them. So, well, Utah they have, but you know, Utah is down to, you know, rising's out. So
championship in the 80s with Ty Detmer, was that correct or no?
Yes.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
84.
Yeah. I think if they go 11-1, they're definitely in, and with their schedule, like you mentioned, then you got Iowa State and Kansas State. So you're probably going to have 2-2, and then either 3-3 or 4-4 from the other 2 power, you know, the Big Ten and the SEC. So who's left? I'm big on Boise State. I love that running back. He is tough. He is tough. And think again, fellas, the only game they've lost, I know they hadn't got a big win, but they went to Oregon and lost on the last second field goal, and that looks like a strong loss if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
No question. It's probably Notre Dame at this point. If Notre Dame, they got 1 loss. They got Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State. Florida State is horrible. Virginia, Army, and then USC, which has not been good. But Army's a
They-
little tougher, and Navy's a little tougher than they have been. But I mean, that's a pretty easy schedule, so you can almost write them in unless they have some sort of collapse. They're going to get in.
Ask
Well-
Nick about facing those triple offenses. Now we had one year where we won the national championship and gave up 28 or 35 points to Georgia Southern, and you know they ran for over 400 yards, and like Saban said, they ran through us like shit through a tin horn, and there was nothing we could do about it. And that was a championship year, so Navy and Army could absolutely upset Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Well,
but I mean, even at 2 losses, Notre Dame gets in. They get in, especially if they lose to Army or Navy, and Army and Navy are ranked or in the season ranked. They get in.
It's possible, you know, because I mean Notre Dame is a favorite. I mean, let's not
Their brand.
let's not think that just as skewed as we might talk about the 14 playoff being here and there, let's not believe that all of a sudden the 12-team playoff is taking that skewed away from it.
Yeah, if it's between, say, a Notre Dame, and I know Eric's face is going to turn red. If it's between a Notre Dame and Iowa State, and they're equal, we all agree they might be equal at the end of the year. What? There's about 98% chance they're going to choose Notre Dame, and that's not
100%. And the thing about it is, you know, that's what makes it tougher for teams is because you have a Notre Dame floating out there. It makes it tougher on the ACC. It makes it tougher on the Big 12 because you do have a Notre Dame floating out there. Now, maybe, you know, let's just say for ISU and BYU make it, but then maybe Miami doesn't because they slip up once and now Notre Dame's in and they're out. You know what I mean? Like with the Notre Dame floating out there, I mean, I think they should almost have to force Notre Dame to go to the Big Ten or go somewhere.
I was just going to say, at what point
That's what's going to happen.
go to
It's
the
going to
Big
happen.
I mean,
When they break away from the NCAA, they will have to join whatever it is. Their independent thing will be over. And they're playing Navy and Army every year.
Those days are gone. Yeah.
Those days are gone.
I think it's going to look like the. I honestly, my pick. I mean, it makes geographical sense too to go with the Big Ten, and on top of the Big Ten for Notre Dame, NBC and the Big Ten have a deal together. So, hey, you know, working relationship with Notre Dame and NBC, right? So might as well just branch over to the Big Ten. When the media, right? They're both the SEC and ESPN, and I think it's who is it? Fox, CBS, and NBC are all in with the Big Ten. So there's a lot, you know, that Notre Dame, you're not losing a whole lot by going to the Big Ten. The only thing that's going to stop Notre Dame from doing that is themselves and their pride. And being independent.
The toughest thing is going to be how do you sort things out? Like Robert says here, you know, what's up with IU football team right now? You know, Indiana, what if they continue to make noise in the Big Ten? What if they jump? I don't know what the schedule looks like. Somebody help me out. Does Indiana play? Do they have Oregon, Ohio State, or Penn State?
They got Nebraska next week. Then they have Washington at home. They got Nebraska and Washington at home. Northwestern. Excuse me. Wait a minute. I'm looking at this wrong. They got Washington and Nebraska at home. Then they go to Michigan State. Then they have Michigan at home. Then they go to Ohio State, and then have Purdue. So they could potentially go 4-1 right there.
But let's say Indiana jumps up and beats Ohio State.
5-1.
Woo.
Then what? Now does a 2-loss Ohio State team deserve? Because Ohio State has Penn State left, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
A two-loss Ohio State's going to get in. You know that.
Well,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I'm trying to get along the skewed line to make sure. What happens if Ohio State finishes? I mean, let's not forget. I mean, Illinois is playing pretty tough football. You know, Illinois plays Michigan this week. What if Illinois hammers Michigan? You know, and puts themselves up in the 5 talk. I mean, What happens if Ohio State floats down to 4? Then what? What if Indiana, Penn State, and Oregon are all above Ohio State in the Big Ten? Then what?
Ooh, then Ohio State's screwed.
I mean, I'm just saying. Are they going to say, well, you have to have Ohio State in there? I mean, that's why even with a 12-team, yes, you're including more teams, and yes, you're opening it up. But is it going to change it? I mean, I'm shocked a little bit that Ohio State went up and Oregon was able to, go toe-to-toe with them. Ohio State takes the lead. Oregon takes the lead. Ohio State, I mean, they went toe-to-toe. There was no miss. There was no, well, you guys were in the Pac-12. You can't play Big Ten. There was none of that with Oregon this weekend.
So is there still
I know. Go ahead.
Is there still a committee picking these 12?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure. Because
Does anybody know? Are the playoffs contractually obligated to give X number of slots to? Each
not
of the
at this
four
point.
conferences?
No. At this point,
Okay.
no.
Just
Well,
to
then I think what's going to happen is if things play out per normal, let's just say things play out the way they should play out, and there aren't all these crazy upsets and everything. Let's just play that game.
Yeah, because that's how the season's been. But you're right.
Yes. Okay. Well, for this exercise, I think there's going to be. I think you could possibly see some very upset Big 12 and ACC fans, and I'm not saying it's not justified, but I think you could easily see 5 or more SEC teams, 4 or 5 Big 10 teams, and then just kind of sprinkling the rest in there. And I think that's very, very possible.
It would
Very
be
possible.
criminal. It would be criminal to have 5 Big Ten teams.
Well, we could.
And at this point, I think
I'm just saying.
no.
I'm
I
just
know,
saying.
but to me, that doesn't. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the ACC or Big 12. I'm just speaking on behalf of college football. That would be criminal because, I mean, the
I
Big
think
Ten is
okay because other than Miami and Clemson and the ACC, there's no one else qualified, and it's very possible that one of those two teams just kind of fall apart at the end of the year because other than those two teams in the ACC, I mean, who do they?
right.
Yeah, Florida State's killing the ACC.
Yeah, for sure.
Their lack of performance. But
Well, we could talk
I'm just saying,
scenarios.
be prepared for that.
We could talk scenarios till midnight, but we need to get our picks in so we can get to the NFL because we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, you are right. I'll get the
Let's
picks.
let's turn to our pick segment.
Let me get the picks queued up here. First game out of the gate is
We got number 6 Miami, 6-0, 4-point favorites traveling to Louisville, who's 4-2. Mike, do you want to be a part of this?
Yeah, I'll be a guest picker.
All right. So who you got? Miami at Louisville.
I mean, I've watching Cam Ward. I've watched him when I first saw him against Oregon at Washington State. I said, "This quarterback's special. I like how he throws the quick release." From what I hear too, he's a great leader, and as we've seen, leads teams back to wins. Keep rolling, Hurricanes.
Chad?
go ahead, Chad.
I'm going to go with Mike on that. I think the Hurricanes are going to blow right through Louisville, and it's not going to be good.
Jay agrees as well. Henry agrees. We got a clean sweep so far for Miami. What do you think, Brett?
And I've watched their last 2 games. They're due to lay an egg in Louisville, and Louisville has torqued Florida State up there in the past. Give me Miami, but it's going to be a pick I regret. I got a feeling. Give me Miami.
And you look who's coaching. Jeff Brown. That's your XFL. If I have a pulse, head coach. I'm playing.
Yeah.
I will take Miami, but that +4 at Louisville for the number 6 team in the nation really makes me think that if Vegas is seeing a team leaking oil, it might just be Miami. But for now, I will take Miami.
I'd be remiss if before we go on to the next game, I don't let everybody know who's leading the picks. No, I mean, I had
Knock
to
knock the
I had
king
to
off the
grab
hill.
I had to grab the top dog award.
Oh, jeez.
So here we go, fellas. The new top dog is sitting right here. 44-26. Chad's at 42-28. Eric 41-29. Brett
Ooh,
over 500 at 36-34.
I'm gaining ground,
Eric,
boys.
So we
The
have
week
a
that I had and you didn't gain more ground, Eric?
I gained 3 games on you. Jeepers criminy.
I
I
was
mean-
terrible.
so
You're just lucky Oregon won, or you really would have been bad.
Miami is a clean sweep for the first game. The next game we got
Let me pull that up.
Nebraska 5-1 at number 16 Indiana, who's undefeated at 6-0. Indiana is a 7-point favorite. Eric,
I'm going to take Indiana. I think the big problem in Nebraska is offensively they're just not consistent enough. And I do think Indiana's the real deal, and they're at home. So give me Indiana.
Wow, I'm shocked.
I'm sure you are.
Brett,
Unfortunately, Chad, I'm sorry. Give me the Hoosiers, which means your Cornhuskers will probably win, but give me Indiana.
Chad.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I am also taking Indiana.
Oh, man.
So we've got
They're better.
we got Henry also agreeing on Indiana, but we have Jay putting the vote in there for the Huskers.
Ooh.
Well, I hope you're right, Jay.
So Mike, what do you got?
I like what I'm seeing from Mr. Patrick Mahomes light for Nebraska. So let me go with the Huskers here.
Ooh.
And I am staying with Indiana. Big game coming up. One of these two teams is going to end up with their second loss of the season. Number 7 Alabama's 2.5-point favorites at 5-1, traveling to number 11 Tennessee. They're heading to ball country. Tennessee comes in at 5-1 as well. Who you got, Brett?
I'm going with Bama.
Ooh.
I'm
Holy cow! You went against the grain on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I said this at the beginning of the season, in the way that Bama lost, and then they've been just sneaking by. I think my prediction of them having like 3 losses or more is, I think number 2 comes here. I'm going with Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I am taking Tennessee as well.
When I look at these two teams, I see the two heels. The heel for Tennessee is offense, and the heel for Alabama is defense. But I think Alabama's offense is better than Tennessee's defense. So I'm going to say that Alabama just squeaks by this one. And what is the spread on this one?
2.5.
Alabama by 2.5.
I mean, it's going to be that close. It's going to be that close.
Mike, you're the deal breaker here.
Yeah. My hunch here, and I've watched Alabama and I've seen a little bit of Tennessee, so I like what I've seen from the Alabama. So roll Tide, roll.
Okay.
So next, number 24 Michigan, 1-point favorites at 4-2, traveling to the University of Illinois, number 22 in the nation at 5-1. I am going to take Michigan on this game.
Ooh. Who you got, Mike?
Yeah,
Good.
so
Let's hear.
we've seen plenty. I've seen plenty of these as a Michigan Wolverine observer here, and going on the road, Illinois is not built. Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they're a fun story. Brett Bielema, but doesn't still, even with Michigan being depleted of all their starters from last year, Illinois still doesn't have the horses Michigan has. Give me the Wolverines.
What do you think, Chad?
I think this is where I think the spiral has started for Michigan, and I think it just continues. Give me the Illini.
I think, it being a +1, it's a very close game. I think as inept as Michigan is on offense, they got to be able to score points, and I'm just not sure they can do it. So I'm going Illinois.
That leaves you, Brett.
I'm going Illinois, unfortunately, Mike. I'm real worried about their quarterback position. I don't know if they'll be able to keep it on the ground 50 times against Illinois like they did with USC. So I got to take Illinois as a home in a close one.
Mike J sides with you and I. So
Hey, all Michigan,
call that a
just
3-3
hand it off. Hand it off. All you got to do.
the next game we have number 8 LSU, 3-point favorites at 5-1, traveling to Arkansas, who's 4-2. They're the home killers.
Give me the Tigers.
But I say LSU is on a roll. They're going to continue their roll. I got LSU.
So do I. They're on the rise.
Yeah, give me the boys from Baton Rouge.
What do you think, Brett?
Dun, 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 dun. LSU. Unfortunately, I'm going for the Hogs. Woo pig, but LSU seems to be getting their feet under them, and
You going to make it a clean sweep there, Mike, or are you going to go the other way?
Well, I'm going to go in honor of Coach O and just say, go Tigers.
Final game. The biggest game of the week. Georgia, number 5 Georgia is 5-1, traveling to Texas, number 1 Texas, who's 6-0 with 3.5-point favorites. Texas says over Georgia. I'm going with the Longhorns. I think they got way too much for Georgia. Georgia hasn't been playing that great of football. I think Texas is going to roll.
I'm taking Texas at home. If it was in Georgia, I'd be taking Georgia at home. I'm taking Texas at home. Vegas thinks they're more than just the 3 points at home, so I'm going with Texas.
Well, I tell you, this is Texas's first is really wading into the SEC now, taking on one of the big boys. So we'll see how they're going to measure up. And Texas, no matter who they stick in at quarterback, it's going to be the Longhorns.
Mike?
Yeah, so this Texas team, it reminds me of what Michigan was last year. It's a very veteran group throughout, loaded offense, defense. They seem to have everything firing on all cylinders. So hook 'em horns.
Brett, it's up to you.
I am pulling for Georgia, but I do believe Texas. This is, like I said, this is not the Georgia that we're accustomed to seeing. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be probably the best game of the weekend, but Texas in a close one.
Yeah, we've got Henry and Jay both saying Texas as well, so it looks like a clean sweep. That's going to wrap up the college segment of the show.
But we have an action-packed, filled NFL slate ahead of us. You are going to want to stick around for this.
We all like college football. There's a quote out there. It's ain't no football like pro football.
That's right. Now, when we come back, we'll kick off the NFL.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? you're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
So turning to the NFL, let's start off with the NFL power rankings.
Time to dissect Ed's Week
Time to
7 power
dissect.
rankings.
From last week, the top four remain unchanged. Kansas City, Minnesota, Detroit, and Baltimore in that order. A little bit of shuffling, 5 through 10. We've got Baltimore moved from 5 to 4. Buffalo, I had slipping from 6 to 8. I don't know. We'll see what Amari Cooper does with Buffalo, but I've said all along with Buffalo that you got to have more than the one-man show of Josh Allen, and I think that's starting to rear its ugly head a little bit. Josh Allen is finding he can't do it by himself. And so we'll see how long it takes Amari Cooper to get incorporated. But Buffalo slides down to 8. I got Houston moving from 7 to 5. They're setting up the big matchup with Green Bay. Green Bay is the big mover for me, going from number 10 to number 6. Houston's going to be playing at Green Bay that game, so that's a 5-6 matchup that it's going to be interesting to see how that one pans out. That's going to be one of our picks. Washington, I had Washington move up from 11 to 7, even though they lost. I think that, I wasn't a true believer in Washington, although I watched the Baltimore-Washington game, and I thought Washington gave Baltimore all they wanted in that game. So, I think that Washington's showing that they're legit. San Francisco, they're a little mover. Have them going up some. They're starting to get healthy. And last year they went through a string where they had lost, I think, 3 consecutive games, but then they went on a tear after that. I think San Francisco might be ready to make a little noise. So I got them moving up. Tampa Bay hung a 50 burger last week.
On the Aints.
On the Aints. Atlanta. Again, there's a lot of there's looking like there's a lot of parity, at least at this point of the season anyway. I got Chicago moving up a couple spots to number 12.
Man, thanks, bud.
Caleb seems to be kind of putting it together a little bit, seems to be improving a little bit each week. I put Philadelphia back in the top 16. We'll see if they can get their offense figured out. Pittsburgh, from here on out, not real exciting. Pittsburgh, they're 4-2, but they got a good defense. Their offense, to me, is right on the borderline of being inept. Seattle, I don't know what the hell's wrong with Seattle. They come out of the gates fast, and now they just can't They just can't seem to.
I'll tell you what's wrong with Seattle when I go through the quarterbacks. Ed.
Yeah,
You'll know.
Chargers are picking up some steam. I think they won a game last week against Denver that I don't think many anticipated. Denver's usually a pretty good home team, and LA come into Denver and took that game. So I got them breaking into the top 16. Teams that dropped out completely. Well, need I say more than Dallas? Well, I had Dallas at number 12, and you talk about getting boat raced, as Brett would like to say. Dallas dropped out of my top 16. Denver, of course, dropped out with their loss. But, there's some big matchups this week. We got Kansas City playing San Francisco, Minnesota and Detroit. We got Houston and Green Bay. We got Baltimore and Tampa Bay. So there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking going on in that top 16 this next week. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that all pans out. So let's see. Go ahead and start ripping it apart.
Well, I'm okay with the top 4. I think you're still, you held Minnesota out because you don't want to put too much pressure on it. But I'm okay with it. And if I was Minnesota and I watched how Sam Darnold play the second half of that Jets game, I would not be crazy about Detroit.
Well, I tell you what, I think if you really knew behind the scenes, I would say he played that second half with either bruised ribs or broken ribs, because he took a helmet shot to the gut that first half of that game, that if you watch his throws in the second half, he wasn't following through on those throws. So,
well, I think he
had a little bit going on in that game that we don't know about.
For your case, I hope you're correct. And the real Sam Darnold is not suiting up for Minnesota. This Caesar Sam, or whatever you've been calling him here lately, shows up for you, because I tell you what, after the raping that Detroit gave Dallas, embarrassing them on their home field in front of their home crowd. I mean, did anybody catch Jerry Jones's comments afterwards?
Detroit went into that game to embarrass Dallas.
And they did.
They pulled out all the stops. Now, Mike, I'm sure we need your comment, but we're going to have you slide over into the window so we can see.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you was enjoying that game.
Yeah, they couldn't wait to play Dallas, and they had maybe it was by the NFL's doing that. Hey, let's give Detroit a bye week before Dallas, so a whole 2 weeks. To let that sink in from the whole, hey, who reported the officials in that game and that robbery that took place in Dallas last year. They couldn't wait, to get a taste. But it did not come out without a loss. So with Aiden Hutchinson's injury, obviously it's a blow. Yeah. I don't think that there's not a single person that, no one wants to see an injury, especially on a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. And we all know what kind of caliber player he is, and very much going to be, he was in line to win some awards at the end of the season for his play. But with the Lions, it looks like, they're going to see who next man up. Brad Holmes said they're not willing to mortgage the future of the Lions. They go get an edge rusher. No matter how anyone feels about this season, there's fans. The Lions fan base right now is kind of divided. We need to go out, trade back up the truck to get a guy like Max Crosby, where I'm more on the position of, hey, I get that there's an edge rusher needed, but I think there's still quality depth on the Lions where, yes, Aiden Hutchinson is a fantastic player and would, no question, help on a Super Bowl run, but one player is not worth putting your whole future at risk or going all in.
I'm looking at it this way, though, Mike. Detroit's a very young team, and Detroit has drafted very well the last few years.
They have.
So they're a nice, tough, young team.
Very much so.
If they had to give away, I don't know their salary cap situation like probably as good as you do, But if they was to give a 1 and a 4 for Max Crosby, that's one thing. I think they could live through that. But the question is, do they have the cap space to actually do that without having to, give away some of their depth?
Well, if you want to go ahead and pop Jay's question up here with Hassan Reddick here.
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick he just signed with Drew Rosenhaus, agent Drew Rosenhaus. For those who is anyone not familiar with Drew Rosenhaus? Or no,
everybody
y'all
knows
heard
him.
the name. Everyone knows the name. So I've heard, I don't know how, that they are they're talking with the Lions. So there's, if anything, Drew will get him on a team. Drew's going to sort this thing out. It sounds, and I talked to agents about Hassan Reddick's deal that I know, and it was not from the start. I'm like, what is he doing here? It doesn't, like, I asked that agent how he feels it's going to play out between these two, and the Jets had the leverage the entire time. There was no, losing 800. The Jets were just go ahead, sit out. 800.
Well, if Reddick was to join Detroit, though, he probably wouldn't draw a salary till sometime in 2026, would he? I mean, by the time he pays his fines, it was over $8 million 2 or 3 weeks ago. I got to figure that the first year he's playing for free before he gets those fines paid.
Somehow, some way, Drew Rosenhaus has a knack for drawing the headache kind of players. That's just something he has. Something about Drew or just Rosenhaus sports representation get a lot of players, a lot of big names, or if you want to call it, it's a lot of baggage with a lot of his clientele. But he seems to always find a way to figure it out. So,
what about this scenario with Cleveland?
Wow.
Cleveland.
Wow,
You think Cleveland lets a Myles Garrett go?
Well, Cleveland's in rebuild, man. Amari Cooper was their top receiver. They got Jerry Jeudy, at least in yards and catches. Jerry Judy's still there, but I mean, with Deshaun Watson,
Mike? What if the Cleveland wants to throw in Deshaun Watson with the trade?
Oh
no.
I mean,
just a thought.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I was definitely on the come on, man. Monday Night Football segment.
I will tell you, though, I read an article today where, and I was happy to see this, where there were talks behind the scenes that the Bears and Detroit were talking to Max Crosby's agent.
wow.
I mean, if Max Crosby comes to the Bears and you partner him across from Sweat, oh boy.
He wants to be a Lion, though.
And then,
but didn't Max Crosby, doesn't he have his hand in on a stadium that got built in Michigan as well?
Eastern Michigan, that's where he went to school. So they got he donated, I think, $1 million, and they named the stadium after him.
I gotta believe.
Brett, I think you're muted, bud.
I gotta believe that there's a little bit of politicking going on there. I'm sure Max Crosby wants out of Las Vegas. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, again, it's the same old Raiders. They toy with 500, but at the end of the day, they just never never get over the hump.
they got that Tom Brady is now part owner, correct?
Yeah.
He'll suit up.
Yeah, suit him up.
If we can get control from Davis and just say, look, Mark, I'll take care of this. I've talked to some people behind the scenes about Mark and not being hateful, but he's a little different. From what I gather, he goes to the same Chinese restaurant every day, or he did back in Oakland, every day now, every single day, and sit at the same seat that they literally had reserved for him about 2 or 3 o'clock every day and ate the same thing every day. And he'd done that for years in Oakland. I hope he's found him a Chinese restaurant or something.
According to him, that hot blonde 29-year-old girlfriend of his had
26
had no idea he was like a billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean,
His haircut.
yeah. I mean, he's such a sharp-looking dude. I can understand why a smoking hot 26-year-old blonde would gravitate toward him.
Well,
Hopefully he's not that stupid.
Well, when Max Crosby made the comment that he was a package deal with Devontae Adams, that just told me that was his cryptic way of saying he wanted out too. So I got to believe there's teams out there that are jockeying to try and get him. But, edge rushers.
Chicago.
Edge rushers don't come along you look at the draft every year, you may have 4 or 5 quarterbacks that make the cut and turn out pretty decent. How many times do you see an edge rusher that pans out?
Oh.
Edge rushers are hard to find. So when you're a team that actually has one, it's got to be hard to let go of them.
And stay at that high level for very long.
You think about Aiden Hutchinson. He was drafted 2? I mean, when you talk about edge rushers, like, well, how's it going to translate to the NFL? He clearly Will Anderson from Alabama is another one. But man, there's been tons of good edge rushers come out of college, and it's like, where'd he go? Where'd who go?
I don't think that.
Who, Chad?
Jadeveon Clowney, generational talent. How does that work?
Well,
Mario Wilkins, generational talent.
Plays about every third play. He decides to take the other 2 plays off. He's a full-time starter.
Yeah.
So I don't think that
ethic.
You look at Watts too. I mean, everybody thought he was the young brother, and I think they thought that he'd do okay in the NFL. But Hutchinson and Watts, those 2 have been wrecking crews in the NFL.
Guys, do you realize that Hutchinson, and I know that a lot of things could have changed because he just played 6 games, but he was on pace for about 20 sacks this season. He had 7.5 sacks in 6 games. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, did he not have a sack or credit for half a sack when he broke his leg on that play?
Yes.
Yeah, he was involved very much in that play on that court on Dak there.
I really watching him play, and I'm glad it's supposedly a clean break, no permanent damage, and hopefully he'll be back full steam next year, even though he's in the Bears division. You gotta love watching guys like him and Watt and Crosby, with just that never-ending motor.
So when you look at the Eagles, Jay brings up this question. I don't know that defense is what the Eagles' problem is. Their problem is their coach.
They need to trade their coach.
Well, but I mean, whether it's coach, whether it's Hurts, who exactly it is, their problems seem to be more on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know that giving away the farm to get Crosby is going to make that big of a difference with Philadelphia.
Look, I know I brought this up a half a dozen times, but I keep coming back to the Atlanta Falcons game. And I've watched, I think, 3 games of Philadelphia this year. Atlanta had no answer for Philadelphia's running game. None. Nada. They could have put 13 people on there, and they still couldn't have stopped Philadelphia's run game. So what did they do after their first drive when they marched down the field? They started throwing it every down. You've got to adapt to what you have to work with. Jalen Hurts is a good player. He's a bull, but he's not a guy that you want to throw 30, 35 times a game. That's not his strength.
I was checking in on the Reddick to Detroit. It is unlikely to happen because if the Jets trade him to an NFC team, they will have to send Philadelphia a 2026 second round pick.
A little bit of background fine print going on.
The Eagles, their guy.
The Eagles, they made a nice little fine print thing there that if you send him to an NFC team, that they get their 2026 second round pick. So I just read that on the NFL wire that if he goes to the NFC team, then Philadelphia gets their 2026.
So I think it's safe to say that Reddick is staying in the AFC, boys.
Yeah.
Jets.
Yeah. Play on.
And see if that key fob works Monday.
But let's keep doing the Crosby to Bears. Okay.
So Eric, let's get into the hot topics. This is gonna probably be the earliest we've ever dove into that.
Yeah, so here let's do let's start with hot topic number 1. Adams to the Jets. Does it fix the problem? Now,
I'll go first with this one.
okay, go ahead.
To me, they fill in the blank on the wide receiver. The wide receiver is only a small part of what's ailing the Jets. They're just not playing good football. If you watch that game on Monday night, the penalties, oh my God, the penalties. It's their problem, their defense. Their problem has not just been wide receiver. It's been, they just got to play better football as a team.
Yeah, I think some of those games, when I see penalties being called at an alarming rate, I'm like, that's enough. Let's let these guys play. The game can't get going. There's no rhythm to the game. It's insane. And
it was literally every play.
Yeah,
Every
play. It was ridiculous. It's like what's the point of even playing this game if that's all you're going to do? There are penalties on every single play. You don't need to throw a flag on every one.
And pass interference or roughing the passer when it's actually a sack.
Hey, I never defend Aaron Rodgers. I'm not a fan. He's a great quarterback. But give the man credit for coming out after the game and saying that roughing the passer was not a roughing the passer. That was the one where I lost my cool and text y'all. You might just dress on these quarterbacks.
You know, Brett, just like you talk about Aaron Rodgers being a great quarterback, are you guilty of the same thing that these other guys are when they want to keep referring to how Darnold's playing this year based on the way he was 2 or 3 years ago? Is Aaron Rodgers is he a great quarterback? He sure isn't showing that this year.
Well, my hot take on this subject is my first question was, well, did they also get 2 offensive linemen that are 320 pounds and can block? Because if that's not the case, then no, Adams does not fix their problem. Ed, you remember, you even brought it up before the season started. Their line statistically last year was 31st out of 32 teams. Then you go out and get a 40-year-old quarterback. What are you doing? You've got
their line. I think their line graded out at like a C- before the regular season started.
1 out of 30 last year. Yeah.
Let's not forget this. Adams ran out of Green Bay away from him.
Right. To go play with
He went and got on a plane and flew off and said, "I'm out."
Yeah, but that was more of a deal where Adams got super frustrated with Green Bay because Green Bay strung him along and didn't sign him to a deal. And finally, when Green Bay decided they wanted to get serious, Adams was like, "Where have you been the last year? I'm out of here."
Yeah, my ass just left. I'm going to go catch up with it.
I did like the way when Aaron Rodgers was doing his bit on Pat McAfee's show, how all of a sudden Aaron looked over to the side and Devontae Adams comes walking in behind him with a football standing at the camera. That was pretty funny.
He's all like, come on over.
I will tell you, here's some breaking news for you. I'm pulling this up on the NFL.
All right, let's hear it.
After the Adams signing, the Jets have reportedly reached out to Eddie Lacy. The 350-pound running back wants to come out of retirement and join the band again. The biggest problem for the Jets is general manager Aaron Rodgers. That's the biggest problem.
He wants all previous Packers.
You bring Cobb in. You bring Lazard in. Now you got Adams back. Again, I can't believe Eddie Lacy hasn't been contact. I mean,
But didn't we see this at the end of his Packers?
Yes, but what I'm telling you is this. That is the Jets' biggest problem. You fire the coach who had his side of the ball correct. If you look the other night, the Jets' defense did not look the same. It did not look the same, and that was Robert Saleh's. That was his job. I mean, I know he's the head coach. He oversees everything, but he was the defensive guy. Okay. I believe if Robert Saleh was still there, I think the Jets win that game Monday night. But you fired the best part of your coaching staff, and I think Woody Johnson came out today and he said, oh, we're going to change this around. We're going to change the culture. The change is good. Change is good. You know what teams say change is good? The ones that fail consistently. And I'll give you an example. Brian Cashman for the New York Yankees. They have wanted to fire him for years, yet the Steinbrenners keep him there, and the Yankees are consistently good. If you look at Green, but you look at the Warriors. Steph Curry is there. They finally got rid of Thompson. The general manager left on his own, but they were consistent. Even when they took heat, they were consistent. What have the Jets never had? Consistency. The same guys in the building. We're going to work through this. This didn't work. Let's go to here. No, we want a knee-jerk reaction. We're going to change this thing around. We're going to change the culture. Salah's gone. Where did it get you? It didn't get you anywhere. It probably set you back. I mean, is Devontae Adams enough to put your finger in the dam and hope that it doesn't? No. I don't know. It's possible. I don't believe it is because, as you said, as Brett said, they didn't pick up 2 325-pound stud offensive linemen. So, I mean, it isn't like, they had Wilson. Wilson has started to pick it up in the last couple weeks. Lazard has still been, but Lazard's long in the tooth, but he's still been what has always been to Aaron Rodgers, his safety valve. But that's what Lazard is. He's a wide receiver 2, a decent wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. But that's Aaron Rodgers' fault. He brought in Randall Cobb for crying out loud last year. I mean, the biggest problem in New York is general manager Aaron Rodgers. And he's not the same quarterback, guys. I don't care how you slice it. He's not the same quarterback. I don't think even if you put 2 320-pound stud offensive linemen in there, he's going to be the same quarterback. He does not look the same.
Well,
so,
what and he gets what he wants. You just put your whole franchise on the shoulders of a 40-year-old.
Of a 41-year-old quarterback.
But I thought the Jets offense looked better the other night, but it's because they put the ball in Breece Hall's hands. They finally got him involved.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, what have the Jets, if you were to think back all the years, what have the Jets always been? Undisciplined. You always watch undisciplined football when they walk on the field. And if you had some consistency, if you had a head coach that you found that you're like, hey, we've got to give this guy some time. And I think they may have been shortchanging Robert Saleh. Did he say all the right things in press conferences? Absolutely not. There were things that when Robert Saleh did a press conference, I was like, ooh, man, if I was that player, I wouldn't be very happy. Like, there was some stuff that he said that should have been kept in-house that he kind of threw guys under the bus, okay? But that's something you can learn from. I do not think that Robert Saleh should have been fired.
Agreed.
I don't think he should have. I think it was another mistake in the line of mistakes that the Jets have made forever. That's just going to go down as, I bet they wish they had Robert Saleh back. Well, and the way that they did it, I mean, it is so New York Jets. We're going to we're escorting you out of here. I mean, come on.
They brought the head coach in. He was a defensive coach, and he had the defense. He was taking care of his part of the team. The offense was a dumpster fire with Nathaniel Hackett. So,
and again, let's general manager Aaron Rodgers.
Let's move on to the next topic.
Let me get the next topic up here. Next move, Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns to the Buffalo Bills. Chad, what do you think about this move?
I think it's a decent move. Amari is still younger than you think, as long as he's been in the league. Is he still a number one? I guess we'll see. But Buffalo, sure, it kind of says what I've been saying since preseason was that who's he going to throw the ball to? and they band-aided it through the first couple weeks when they had him running around like a bull in a china shop using his excellent athleticism.
And he ended up being hurt, I might add, real quick.
Yeah,
Had his hand in a splint for most of the season.
And his salary hit is nothing. It's like $800 and some $1,000 for the rest of the year. So that way, it's fantastic. I think it's going to be a good addition. We'll see how quickly he picks up the offense and how he ends up meshing with them. But I think it was a pretty good addition. I haven't ever heard anything about Amari being like poison in the locker room or a problem or anything.
Nothing like that.
He's a pretty quiet dude from what I know. Anyway.
Yeah. Mike, you have anything on this one? What do you think?
Bills could definitely use him. I mean, shoot. I mean, he, like we talked about earlier, Josh Allen can't do it all by himself, and that's what we've seen out of Buffalo. You know, that was a big win against probably not the best of Jets teams on Monday night. And you know, we have who's the Tiger wish he could wide receiver. You thought he'd be the guy. Haven't seen a lot out of the rookie wide receiver there, but Amari Cooper, veteran, you know, he's been in the league for, you know, a few years. And like Chad said, you know, younger than what he's seen for as long as he's been in the league. So, but how long will it take him to grasp the offense? That's going to be the thing now. So it's,
yeah. When will he be a help?
Yeah.
Is it
2 weeks? 3 weeks?
I guess he is 30, but so he's not as young as I thought he was. Turns out, but I think it's a pretty good addition. I mean, and it didn't cost so much. What would they give away for him? Would they trade for him? Anybody know?
Let's see. I will have that information for you real quick.
Ed was asking something here.
Well, I was, you know, when you was talking about the Bills Jets game.
Yeah.
You know, the frustration that Rodgers had after the game, there was a lot of different things you could point to. But, man, give me a field goal kicker that can make a damn field goal. He missed 2 huge field goals that changes the whole complexion of that game. I mean,
I'm not shedding any tears seeing Aaron Rodgers go down getting sacked. So I'm not, you know,
I'll never feel sorry for him. Cooper was acquired for a 2025 third-round pick, so a third-round pick in the coming draft this year.
That's decent.
That's pretty good.
That's fair.
I think they swapped late-round picks. The Bills got the 6th-round pick from Cleveland 2025, and Cleveland got a 7th-round pick in 2026. So Cleveland picked up 2 picks, Buffalo picked up 1, and Cooper. So, I mean,
I think that's about as fair of a trade. I think that's fair. You know, that seems, you know, I think that's very fair.
And the thing is, the nice thing, and Chad alluded to it, you know, only having $2.9 million of 2024 cap space, you know, picking up Cooper was a pretty good deal for the Bills, considering the lack of room that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kicked the tires on Adams, but I think you know, once Adams went to the Jets, then they pivoted, and I think Cooper's going to be a good fit for Josh Allen.
He played at Alabama, and he was always, when he was our number 1, he was always very quiet, very humble. He's a good hands guy. He's not a number 1 anymore, but I think he's a fantastic fit for what Buffalo needs and what Josh Allen needs. I thought it was a really good move. Sneaky good, but we'll see.
And Buffalo, I mean, they've struggled the last few weeks, but I mean, they're still sitting on top of the division. That division is so bad. I mean, they can almost coast and win the thing.
Right. So, get healthy by the end, get what they need by the end, and call it good.
Yep.
So, are we?
What's the next hot topic?
Well, I think we're going to save the last topic till the end, because I think you know, if anybody in that is watching, tonight's going to run a little long because our NFL is chock full of stuff. But we're going to go on to quarterbacks. Now, to set the premise for everybody watching out there in podcast land,
And just
If
so
you-
you know, Brett and Mike, there might be a need for the three of us to take this show home because by the time this segment's over, Eric and Chad might be rolling around on the ground in the background. So
I might take off in the car and run up there. Anyway, if you have watched our show at all in the past, one of the panelists who will remain nameless has jumped down my throat for flip-flopping and changing my opinion on quarterbacks and things. So what I decided to do was I have broken down every single quarterback currently starting in the NFL into categories. And for some of them, I will tell you why, and for some, I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But I will start from top to bottom. The only elite quarterback that I see in the NFL right now, and elite comes with its certain categories. One is they can carry a team even when the team is not doing so well, or they don't have the weapons. And that's Patrick Mahomes. As much as I hate to say it, I'm not a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, primarily because of their fans. They've gotten awful arrogant and cocky here lately. But that does not take away from what Patrick Mahomes has been able to do on the field. Winning the Super Bowl last year, do I think they had some help from the refs? Yep, and we've talked about that on the show and we pointed it out. But also, he's made the plays when he's needed to, either his legs or his arm. He's made some phenomenal throws, those types of things. So I think he stands alone in that elite category. The next category, semi-elite but needs help. We've talked about it. Josh Allen tried to be the Patrick Mahomes, not having a whole lot of help, but it's clear that he's not able to sustain it the way that he does it. I don't think Josh Allen is quite the elite passer that Patrick Mahomes is, so he tried to do more on his feet. And that, I think we would all agree that when a quarterback tries to do too much on his feet, the body can only take so much, even though Josh Allen's 255 pounds, 6'4". You can only take so much. And the other one is Lamar Jackson. He's close. He's getting better as a passer. He still likes to work a little bit, I think, too much on his feet, but I think he is understanding the game better. He is able to make better throws and more consistent throws, and he doesn't have to work so much on his feet. The very good category, and I'm not going to break all these down, Jared Goff, Burrow, Stroud, Purdy, Mayfield, and Jordan Love. In that category, guys may look at Mayfield and Love. Love maybe hasn't done enough. He had a good second half of the season, blew out the Dallas Cowboys, got hurt early in this year. But, I do think Love, even though I hate to say it, I hate to give Green Bay any type of credit at all, but I do think Love is a pretty good quarterback. And Baker Mayfield, let's face it, he's had a resurgence. They laid a 50 spot on the Aints, this weekend. So for whatever mix, whatever's in the water, whatever, Baker Mayfield's drinking it and it's working out for him. Obviously Purdy, Goff, Joe Burrow, I thought about putting him in the semi-elite category. His help would definitely be on the defensive side because I think the Cincinnati Bengals defense is probably last in the league in just about every major category. I mean, they put up 30 points in 2 consecutive games and lost them both. So it was close. Burrow was close. Good with liabilities. Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, and Herbert in San Diego. I think they're really good quarterbacks, but they have some liabilities. Murray gets a little free with the football. He's smaller in stature. Hurts, I'm not sure where Hurts is at. He definitely has some liabilities. I know we have some Eagles fans on now. Maybe you can tell me. Sam Darnold, I'm still waiting for him to turn into Sam Darnold of old so we can stop that Viking horn and all that crap that Ed likes to do at the beginning of the show. But those would be my good.
It'll be over this week.
Well, maybe. I hope so.
You're not talking about this Caesar Sam.
Yeah.
Darnold,
Yeah,
right?
that's Caesar Sam
That's
Darnold.
Caesar Sam. Okay.
Yeah, right.
I won't keep it up
Average at best, and I mean this at best, Geno Smith. I mean, they've gotten more traction out of Geno Smith in Seattle than I ever thought Geno Smith could do.
That's the truth.
you know,
He's contributed a great deal for
yeah,
that.
I mean, it isn't like he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been terrible. You know, Seattle definitely has problems. They've lost 3 in a row. But I wouldn't lay that all at the hands of Geno. I just don't think Geno has the ability to carry a team. So they need help from other areas. And I just think Seattle just doesn't have it right now. You know, Jones in New York, Daniel Jones in New York. Has he played better? Yeah. But I think he's probably going to be an average quarterback. And Dable, you know, he stuck with him. So we'll see how that plays out. And Trevor Lawrence has not impressed me. What are they, 1-5? I mean, their season's over, man. And he's been healthy, and their season is over. I just don't think, you know, Trevor Lawrence, when he came out of Clemson, everybody was like, oh, yeah, this is – I think some of the generational talent, some of the commentators were calling him the prince behind the king Mahomes, and it has been yuck. I mean, the Bears absolutely boat raced him, and he had no answers. And if you're the generational talent you're supposed to be, you know, you can't get blown out. You can't get blown out there. Young with upside, Daniels and Williams. I'm not willing to declare either one of them, you know, awesome. I certainly don't think they're bad. I just think there's a lot of upside to them, and I think they're going to continue to get better. I think, you know, Daniels came out after the first game pretty hot after that. And Williams has continued to get better. So I like the upside of both these young quarterbacks. But I think, you know, Daniels in the Washington system appears to be a little ahead. You know, they go head-to-head next week. So we'll get a good look at both of them there. But Williams is really starting to pick it up. He looks like he's more in command of everything. And you can see after the Jacksonville game, the playbook has just kind of gotten bigger and bigger. And, you know, Williams is able to keep a lot of things alive with his feet as well. So,
And can the Bear fans contain themselves by seeing actual good quarterback play?
No.
It's
No.
like, oh my God, like, what is this?
Well, let me answer that, Mike. I was not able to respond during that game because I was unfortunately or fortunately making several distillery trips last weekend in Kentucky. But these 3 guys here, oh my God, during the Chicago game, they were creaming over each other.
Did you see that?
Lord.
Seriously, did you see that back shoulder throw to Allen in the middle of the field?
I didn't.
That ball was out of his hands before Allen came around. Now, that is an elite throw. I'm not saying because that is an elite throw. Does he do it all the time? No. The one bad throw he made, kind of threw it off his back foot. Moore was open. That ball needed to be released a little bit sooner, and that's his 5th touchdown of the day. Instead, he hung it up there a little bit, and it got picked. But that throw to Allen in the middle of the field and that throw to Allen in the corner, those were elite throws. They were. And if he can continue to build on that and continue to do those things, you know, I like where we're going there.
I think I was cooking breakfast.
Six games in, he's calling audibles. He's directing the line and blocking.
Yeah,
he's got a command of the offense. He's clearly the person in charge out on the field.
Yeah,
he makes the throws. He does all those. He does all that, but it's the head stuff. His head is getting in there, and he's digesting it, and he's making all of those calls. You know, there's sometimes Jalen Hurts. This is the first year he's making the line calls because Kelsey did it all. So and he's in his 6th year, 7th year, whatever it is.
So obviously, Chad, you were one of those guys at the beginning of the season that thought Chicago should have stayed with Fields. So now, knowing what you know, six weeks in, who would you have under center for Chicago if you could do it all over again?
I would. What I said at the time was that I thought I understood.
I'm waiting for this.
What I said at the time was I understood why Justin couldn't stay, and it was best for both parties to split. Now, everybody seems to misinterpret my feelings about Justin and his abilities. So, has there been any player screwed over by a franchise more than that kid?
Barry Sanders.
Well, yeah.
Barry Sanders, come on.
Give me rushing his whole career in Detroit. Bryce Young.
Bryce
Bryce Young. I mean, they did nothing for him with offensive line help at all.
No, that poor kid was. I mean, but listen, Chad. I will give you. I will give you flowers for that. They didn't do enough for him. But the thing of it is, I agree with you somewhat. But I will tell you, I've broken down film after film of the Bears, game after game, of clean pocket, missing open receivers. And guess what? They're complaining about in Pittsburgh. Some of the same things. I just do not think that it's something that he's been able to pick up on. It just the missing the open receivers in a clean pocket is something that a good and an elite quarterback does it automatic. He knows who's going to be open. But a good NFL quarterback at least needs to be able to find those open receivers when he's there. And Justin Fields is just not able to.
Well, I think a lot of that is he's trying to clean his head out from all the crap that got shoved in there in Chicago that did no good. That was horrible coaching. And I think he's slowly overcoming it. Will he be an all-pro? I never said he was going to be an all-pro. Could he quarterback a strong defensive team to a Super Bowl win? Sure could.
Hey, Trent Dilfer did it, so nothing would surprise me there. So
I'll finish and I'll say I was wrong. That Caleb is the right choice. And when I was in panic mode 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, whenever it was, when you asked us, would we rather have Jalen Daniels or Caleb Williams? I'm leaning more towards Caleb now. So, I mean, I panicked.
They both panned out for both franchises.
100%. I don't know.
We'll see. We're 6 games into their careers.
But here's the deal.
Good to me.
The thing that I like about Caleb Williams, and Chad alluded to it, was when he's up at the line, he's like, kill. Like he's doing some things that you don't normally see rookie quarterbacks doing.
He's not just doing the kill, switching from the pass play to the run play. I've seen him audible, changed a whole new place.
100%. Yes.
You don't
and that's encouraging.
6 games in.
Yeah, that's encouraging. Next category is young but not sure. And I have Bo Nix, Drake May, and I threw him in here because I really don't know anything about him. Huntley starting for Tua in Miami. I know he's young, but I don't know much about him. But definitely with Nix and May, I think it's too early to tell. I think Nix has the ability, and I think Sean Payton will get it out of him. He does, but Nix has been more like this. You know, Caleb and Daniels have been more like this. Nix has kind of been like this. So, and May's getting his first or second start. Right? Is it second start or first start this week for the Patriots?
He looked pretty dang decent the other day.
He'll get his first start this week. So, I mean, he'll get his
second start. He had his first start.
Yeah, that's what I thought. His clock will start here, and we'll kind of see how it goes for him. The next category, young but not so good. I have Levis, Rattler, and Fields in this category. I still consider Fields to be young, but again, as I read, because I do still kind of keep on, again, a great young man. There's, the locker room in Chicago and the locker room in Pittsburgh were always behind him. He's a great human being. But I'm starting to read articles in Pittsburgh, and they're saying some of the same things that, were happening in Chicago that are not getting cleaned up in Pittsburgh. They scored 30 points this past weekend, but they hadn't scored over 20 prior to that. So that tells me the defense is doing their job and they're doing just enough. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So Fields, Rattler, and Levis and the young but not so good. Oldies but goodies. Oldies but goodies. Joe Flacco coming in for Richardson and just doing Joe Flacco things. Kirk Cousins, that first game back, we were talking on the show. We're like, man, Kirk doesn't look the same. How'd that Achilles heal? He's kind of settled in now. He's kind of figured out what he is, and he's doing. And I wasn't quite sure where to put Matthew Stafford because he's dealing with such a mash unit in the Rams that You know, he's been around a long time, so I thought, well, I think he's still a good quarterback, but everybody's a walk-in mash unit of the Rams. I mean, their season's over. But I think Stafford's still a good quarterback. Oldies, but not so goodies, Andy Dalton and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has not looked the same at all.
Nope.
I know the Red Rocket came in for Carolina that first week and kind of give him some juice, but then they played Chicago, and Chicago absolutely boat raced them. I'm like, oh, back to reality.
That's a typical backup. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's what Justin Fields is going to turn into.
I do too.
I think Justin Fields is end up being a backup quarterback for some team that whenever they need a spark, you know, the starter's not pulling his weight, that they'll bring him in, you know, short term. But again, Andy Dalton is a perfect example. Backup comes into the game, looks good for a week. The next team now has a week of film to plan for him, and then they get annihilated. So,
Yes.
you know, just like Chase Daniel. Chase Daniel made a living in the NFL being a backup, but
Playing
every
2 or
time
3
he
games in a
very
row.
good living.
in one game, he crashed and burned. So,
Yeah, that's right. So that was the oldies but goodies, and my WTF. My WTF goes to Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott.
Ooh.
I mean, I know Cowboys fans, they're still stinging from getting stung at home bad, but
the last 4
Jeepers.
times.
yeah, but Dak, what the heck? You know, you get paid $60 million. Okay? You get paid $60 million. I would expect that I would have Dak Prescott somewhere up there in the very good to semi-elite. Did he look even good?
Yeah, but here's the deal. He's one of those quarterbacks that he's really effective on play action. When you have no run game and the defense does not have to respect the run game, he is not an elite enough quarterback that can shoulder it all on his own. He's got to have a 2-headed monster, and they just don't have it.
Well, looking at the stats here, I mean, I'll call him Stat Prescott because he always does well in garbage.
Yeah, he's always got the stats, it seems like.
You know, Stat Prescott's number 3 in league passing yards right now. So, but
yeah, but
I mean, that offense and that whole team is just a freaking mess. And McCarthy he's done. He is so cooked.
I think he's a dead man walking.
He's a dead man walking. And Jerry Jones is the major problem in Dallas, and he's not going to fix himself. And I mean, the rumor is that he was trying to take some of the heat for his son. I don't buy it. I mean, he's been screwing this up since before his son was really that involved in running the team. And you know, I don't necessarily feel too bad because, I mean, it's the Cowboys and we all know what their fans are like. And
right.
So it doesn't bother me so much, but I mean, I think he's a good quarterback if you can put him in a system with support, a running game, and a defense. I think he's serviceable. I think it could take somebody deep into the playoffs. Can he win a Super Bowl? I don't know. But I mean, I don't know.
I don't understand.
For what they're paying, for what they paid him, we can surmise that franchise is done for the next 5 years.
They're cooked.
Well, I don't understand
Bring Micah Parsons to Chicago.
Yeah.
What justified Jerry Jones to pay Dak $60 million? I mean, at worst case scenario, Dak bolts and goes to another team. There was nothing that Dak presented or offered the Cowboys that warranted $60 million for 4 or 5 years.
One thing about Jerry Jones that, you know, some of us may have noticed, but when you look at when Jerry is very involved with the Cowboys, he is very loyal to his players. kind of like how Al Davis could be to back then. That could be as great as that sounds in the world of pro football. That's not always a great thing.
But that's a problem. And Marty says, what do you mean about Dallas Cowboy fans? Marty, I will tell you this. Every single year, the same meme comes out on social media. We're the Cowboy. We them boys. We're really good. Playoffs, ouch. We're not very good. I mean, it's reciprocal every single year. And this year,
Boys.
I mean, it's not even looking like that. I mean, you can't the thing that the Dallas Cowboys had going for them last year until they lost to Green Bay badly at home. Weren't they undefeated at home last year? Or am I missing something, guys? Did they lose a game at home last year?
Not until the playoffs, I believe, and then they are 0-3 at home this year. But the Cowboys' problem to me is very glaring. Of course, they miss Micah Parsons right now. Their defensive line and offensive lines are just getting manhandled by just about any decent team. They've got real problems at both lines of scrimmage now. And Dallas just signed a San Antonio Brahmas, ex-San Antonio Brahmas defensive lineman today to add to their practice squad. They're just real thin on both lines. And Jerry's paid all that money to this guy and that guy and this guy. And
first of all, you roll with Pollard last year, right? He was serviceable, but he was not he was not a feature back. Okay. So what's your answer this year? What was the answer this year for the running game? Let's bring back Ezekiel Elliott.
There's that loyalty there.
Well, not only that, but then they signed Dalvin Cook, and have you even heard of him? Is he even?
No.
I've seen nothing of him
in a game.
I mean, we were going to go through buy and sell, but I mean, are we even buying that the Dallas Cowboys are a playoff team at this point?
Oh, no.
I mean, and Jay said it here. He answered a question for us. 8-0 at home last year, 0-4 at home this year with the playoffs included since. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, yeah, as Bears fans, we can't find our quarterback and we're hoping that happens. But, how many years have you guys, been really good and since the 90s and completely choked it off? I mean,
a lot of them Cowboy 13-3 records, and then
12-5 and whatever, and they just absolutely crap the bed. And
I think you forgot one category, Eric.
What's that?
I think you should have had a scrap heap category.
Yeah.
And this would have been your first guy.
Oh, yeah. Then I had to go.
Trey Lance project.
Yeah. Trey Lance was another one that, drafted by San Francisco, and then Kyle Shanahan going into Lynch's office and saying, listen, I think our third quarterback on the depth chart could be the best one that we have. That's quarterbacks. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But again, then Jerry Jones brings him in. And I'm thinking to myself, Cooper Rush did a very adequate, above average job when he came in for Dak Prescott.
Cooper Rush is a solid quarterback.
And so, Trey Lance, maybe there's still some, something in the tank for him at some point, but that kid just looks happy to be in pads and he's not playing.
The Cowboys make a point of trading for him. They get him under the one, but then you sign Dak to $60 million. When is Trey Lance going to ever see the field? Never.
He's not.
No,
I think they traded for him and they realized, oh, okay, I guess we're going to have to pay Dak.
Yeah.
I think that's what that was.
And look at the
I think they thought, oh, well, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, they couldn't sculpt this kid right.
Yeah.
They have a big failure rate with quarterbacks,
Cowboys
Yeah.
have an absolutely brutal upcoming schedule. I mean, even when you look at the rest of the year, holy smokes. I mean, there's like maybe 2 wins. I mean, from the film that all these teams have from what Detroit was able to do to them, the Cowboys are at 49ers next. Then the Cowboys go to Atlanta. Atlanta's not going to be an easy slouch. A divisional game against the Eagles that they host after that. Then they host the Texans. And then, shoot, you probably don't want to play the Commanders right now. You have the Giants, which I don't think the Giants would even be,
they're not going to be scared of them.
I think
Giants
the wheels are coming off, boys.
Yeah. They have a serious leak in the boat, and there's not enough people to plug the holes. And, you could see it. And I think,
It reminds me of Titanic. It's fixing to be like I told Marty earlier today. I said, bro, it just looks like a total rebuild to me. They're about in a position where they're going to have to start over.
Well, so the next big contract for them is Micah Parsons. Do they go, well, we can't afford to keep him, and we got to get something out of him?
That's the route I go.
So do they trade him? Because they can't keep him. They can't sign him.
You can trade him for a haul.
Yeah.
A haul is what you need right now.
Jerry won't do that.
No, he won't do that. But let's say I'm a Dallas Cowboy.
He did
fan.
it. It's called Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
God,
you're right.
I know it.
Oh, but he loves Micah.
But I will tell you this.
No, but he can't.
Do you trust Jerry Jones and the Brain Trust to use whatever haul they get from Micah Parsons to turn that into gold? I mean,
well, Jerry old Skeletor could keel over by then.
Well, maybe.
That needs a Chicago Bears, Carolina Panthers trade is what he needs.
Yeah.
So Eric, do you have any other hot topics, or do we need to get to picks?
No, I think we better, with the time allotted, we could not do our due diligence with the NFC North with the time being over. So I think we better hold off on the NFC North until next week because I think the time we can
it's a
spend,
big one.
It is a big one. I will leave it up to
Vikings fans.
So let's get to the picks then.
All right, let me get to the picks here. Let me get the first pick up here. It is
First
Seattle.
pick, Sunday noon game. We got Seattle, who is on a 3-game free fall. 3-3 at Atlanta, 4-2. Atlanta's a 3-point favorite, but Atlanta's playing a lot better football right now. I'm taking Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to hand Seattle 4 in a row.
This one should be. Yep. So 2 bird teams, let the feathers fly, and I think the Atlanta Falcons will pick up the win here.
Brett?
Falcons, hands down.
Clean sweep, Chad?
Yeah, I said Dirty Birds.
Okay. Next game. We got Houston, 5-1. Their only blemish was a butt kicking from Minnesota. But other than that, they're on a roll. They go to Lambeau Field, where Green Bay's 2.5-point favorites, sitting at 4-2. Who do you got, Eric?
I'm taking the home team. If it was at Houston, I'd be taking Houston. But since it's at Lambeau, unfortunately, I have to go with Green Bay.
Brett?
Green Bay.
Chad?
Yeah, give me the Fudge Packers.
Oh, Mike?
Anytime you go to Lambeau, you play 2 teams. You play the Packers and the Stripes, and they'll win every time. So Green Bay.
I'm taking Houston. I'm going with Houston. I think
the pick king takes Houston.
Yeah, I'm taking Houston.
Good
Green
value
Bay,
pick here.
Green Bay is a little inconsistent on offense. I think that Green Bay's wide receivers don't scare anybody. I think Houston's defense is good enough to hang. So if you look at
Green Bay's wide receivers don't scare anybody.
No.
They got 5 receivers that would be number ones on a lot of teams in this league. I think you've been smoking the wacky tobacco down there in
I
St.
think
Louis.
you've been
All
hanging
I
out with
know is
Caesar
that
Sam
whenever-
Darnold too long.
Yeah, I think
when
you've been.
Minnesota played at Green Bay, Aaron Jones was a running machine. I think with Houston having Joe Mixon back, they've done a great job getting Joe Mixon involved in their offense. I think they're going to have enough to keep Green Bay's defense off balance. Going to be a little bit on their heels. I think Houston's going to pull it out.
That was the hot take, bold statement of the night.
Yeah.
Green Bay's
was.
wide receivers don't scare anybody. Oh,
Number one, you got Watson. Watson, I got him on my fantasy team. So
no,
I brought-
if they all stayed healthy and all could play at the same
That's
time,
right, but-
that would
but
be
you know
devastating. But they're hurt.
How's that saying go? If
They got-
hands or butts and whatever.
Yeah, but they got 5 number ones. So even when 2 of them are hurt, they still got 3.
Watson
3 of them are hurt. They got
Watson
2.
sits 2 games for every game he plays. So we'll
That's
see.
a bold statement.
That's a bold statement
Bold
there,
statement there,
Daddy.
Cotton.
Next
Okay,
game.
The next game, the feature game of the week.
Damn right.
It's 5-0
Ooh.
Minnesota at home, 2-point favorites.
Eric,
All
you're
right.
the one.
Mike-
Bud.
Mike,
Coming down.
Mike,
Eric,
I
you
already,
need to get out of the way so those 2 can
yeah.
get out.
Here, Mike, I already have you down for Detroit.
Yeah, there's no Cinderella Minnesota down this week. You got Motor City Campbell coming. No way. Run it down the road. David Bears or letting us have David Montgomery. We are coming. We're running it right up the gut, Minnesota. This is gonna look like a wrestling promo with me pointing right at the camera. We're coming, Minnesota.
Oh, and
Mike, this is unfair because Ed was tooting that damn horn of his the whole time you were talking.
I said it's looking, for me I'm looking like a wrestling promo with pointing at the camera. Like we're coming. So it's gonna.
Oh, wait a minute. We got to take a break here. I wrote him down as Minnesota. Hold on.
Yeah. Chad, who you got?
Give me Detroit.
Brett?
One pride, Detroit.
Oh,
I am also taking Detroit.
whoa!
You guys.
Hopefully Dan Campbell kicks some field goals when he needs to.
We got
Yeah,
Jake
no
Lee.
doubt.
Don't worry about that.
Here's the scenario.
All right, here we go.
The game's going to be tied. 30 seconds left.
Nope.
Detroit's going to be driving down the field. They're going to be on the 5-yard line. It's going to tick down to 8 seconds left, 4th and 5. Tie ball game. Campbell's going to say, we're going for it because that's what we do. He's going to go for it instead of kicking the game-winning field goal, which he won't get. It'll go into overtime. And Caesar Sam frickin' Darnold, you got it. Well, they win the toss. Bomb to Jefferson. Thriller win in overtime.
I remember.
Give me the Vikings.
He said 2 weeks ago last week he was done with the Caesar Sam.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
when the saying Sam frickin' Darnold had a
Sam
different tone to
frickin'
it.
Darnold.
Yeah.
It had a
Sam
different tone to
Caesar
it
Sam.
before.
Because he had a bye week and that rib cage feels a lot better.
I remember
Yeah.
you saying Sam frickin' Darnold with a different tone of voice.
Yeah, it was a way different tone of voice, Mike.
Don't think Sam frickin' Darnold didn't sleep a little better.
It didn't sound like an exciting Sam frickin' Darnold.
Don't think he didn't sleep a little better when Hutchinson went down this last week.
Oh, he's gonna get a face full of McNeil here. Just got a nice contract extension. So
Let me check the comment line. Hey, Henry's a man of wisdom. Henry went with Minnesota.
We may have to have a watch party for this Minnesota-Detroit game here.
Marty and Jay, they're probably homers of Mike, so they took Detroit. Okay, next game, we got Kansas City 5-0. Super Bowl rematch. San Francisco can't seem to get over the hump. Kansas City has gotten the best of them when it counts. But San Francisco's playing pretty good football right now. Kansas City 5-0 at San Francisco 3-3. San Francisco 1.5 point favorites. Eric.
San Francisco needs this game. They have to win this game. The Chiefs' offense has not been that good. You know, I gotta believe this has to be San Francisco. They need to win this game. They need to get Kansas City's monkey off their back. I don't care if it's a regular season game. San Francisco has to win this game. So I'm taking San Francisco. That's how they're
Henry
coming.
and Jay agree with you. They got San Francisco as well. What do you think, Chad?
Man, this is tough.
Yeah, we
Well,
don't pick
I don't-
easy games. Jesus.
I don't do easy games. You should know that by now.
No easy game in the NFL.
You know, I think this is the week. I had Kansas City circled, but give me 49ers.
Chad goes with the San Francisco 49ers. Brett?
San Francisco is going to wipe the field with Kansas City's ass, and we're all going to enjoy watching it.
Don't say that, Brett. Now San Francisco's going to lose
Yeah.
because you are horrible at this.
Take Kansas City, Brett, for the rest of us.
Kansas City. Oh, Brett, you're
Right.
killing me.
No, Mike. What do you think, Mike?
I think, it's interesting always when you see an undefeated team, and with Kansas City being 5-0, I just don't, I want to, let's see how far they can take this undefeated season here. So let's go Chiefs.
So Marty can't make up his mind who he's taking. Oh, he's going with Kansas City. Mike and Marty are the only two taking Kansas City. I'm going with San Francisco as well. Next game, New York Jets in a must win at 2-4. Traveling to Pittsburgh at 4-2. Pittsburgh is a 2-point favorite. The Sunday night game.
Who you got, Brett?
I'm taking the Jets, Jets. I haven't learned from last week.
Chad?
All right. We got option A, Justin Fields plays, they win. Option B, Russell plays, they lose. Do I get that?
No.
No? All right, give me Pittsburgh.
Michael.
Give me the Berg.
Eric.
They burnt me last week. They played like crap. The wind isn't going to be blowing in Pittsburgh. I have zero faith in Justin Fields because I do think he's still going to start. I'm going to go with the Jets.
I am taking the Jets as well because this is basically the season for the Jets.
It is. They go 2-5. They're cooked.
I don't care whether they got a favorable schedule or not. They go 2-5. They're not recovered from that. So I take the Jets. The last game of the week, the Monday night.
Oh, what a game!
We got the Baltimore Ravens with 4 wins in a row, 3.5 point favorites traveling to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is also sitting 4-2. Eric, who you got?
I love Baker Mayfield. I love the way he plays. I love the way that he has reinvented himself, from his Cleveland days. He really isn't that cocky, arrogant kid that he was in Cleveland. In Tampa Bay, he's really become an NFL quarterback. But with that being said, Baltimore's on a roll. Derrick Henry is a man. I just think Baltimore has too much for Tampa Bay. I do think it's going to be a closer game than maybe people would think, but I have to go with Baltimore.
Jay comes in with Baltimore. Marty comes in with Tampa Bay, as does Henry. So we're on both sides of the fence so far. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I'm just, with Lamar Jackson has a knack of beating, he doesn't lose the NFC teams. He's 22-3 all time against NFC teams, and I don't see that record. I don't see another loss there. I'm taking Baltimore here.
Chad?
Give me the Pirates.
I am going with Baltimore. I think that, is there a hotter team in the NFL right now?
No. Derrick Henry's scary.
I got to think that Baltimore keeps it rolling. I'm going with Baltimore. Looks like you get to bring up the rear, Brett.
Well, I'm used to it when it comes to picks. I picked against my boy King Henry last week. Baltimore, I'm not doing it again. Baltimore, but it should be a fun game.
So that pretty much concludes the pick segment. I'm sure all the fans out there are rooting for me to hold on to the crown as the big dog.
I've got opportunities this week. They're
They're
there.
probably-
We got there's several games that could go awry for me. Although if it goes the way I'm hoping it goes, I could get a little comfort zone built up.
I could actually take the lead if things fall apart for you. I'm looking for that. I'll be looking for that.
Well, we wanted to take a few minutes and thank all the fans out there that have tuned into our show. Again, we're very humbled at the viewership numbers, and we really appreciate everybody watching the show
and commenting.
Yeah,
I know
we love the comments, and we really do try and work on putting the best content together we can to make these shows interesting, not just amongst ourselves because we just love talking football, but to make it interesting for you guys listening in. So,
if you watch,
I know Brett wants to do a shout out to some of our fan groups out there. So why don't you take it away, Brett?
Yeah, I want to thank Christina Gallios, I believe is how you pronounce it. Sorry if I butchered your name. The Southeastern Cops group, SEC Unfiltered. We've got so many NFL talk, NFL memes, NFL Uncensored, Big 12. Big 12 talk, and so many more that allow us to post our show in your groups, and we greatly appreciate it.
Eric, you have any parting shots?
Yeah, just I know a lot of people watch the show and they, may or may not comment, but always feel free to comment. I mean, that keeps the show going. We try to add your comments. Playing that damn horn.
Shove a sock in it.
Everybody be rooting for Detroit this weekend so we don't have to hear that damn thing and we can get rid of it. But seriously,
you want to hear it.
We appreciate all the comments. We appreciate the interaction.
Cultural appropriation, Ed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Check us out on Facebook, X, and YouTube.
With that said,
keep tuning in. No better place to have a Wednesday night football show than right here. Keep it on the bottom line.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us, Mike. I know you've had a very busy fall.
Oh yeah.
Looking forward to the UFL season.
Absolutely.
Again, it's going to be the third year in a row, and looking for big things from the UFL this coming year. So, there'll be more to talk about on that as time goes on. But if you got the trigger finger, Eric, now's the time that we say, if it's important, if it's news that you want to hear about anything football, it's the bottom line. We'll see you again next week.
Peace out, guys.
And that's the bottom line.